Check, check, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2. We are live. And as I always do with these live streams, I check my technology to make sure that everyone's seeing things the way I want them to. And I see, yeah, one of them looks really good right there. And let me just kind of, please bear with me as I take a few seconds just to make sure the other platforms are doing what I need them to do. And dun, dun, dun. And all right, yep, there it is. So, good morning if you're here on the west coast of the United States. Good afternoon if you're on the east coast or other parts of the world. And good evening if you're in Portugal. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to thank Jessica from Dianthus, who was my guest on Thursday evening. We had some technology issues before we went live, and luckily I figured them out after the fact. But now I know moving forward what to do if that happens again. And I want to thank Christine Mitchell, Lisa Hagen Glynn, and Shar Tupper from Metal Titans for joining me last night for the Fun Table session, round 12. That was a lot of fun talking with them about photo work and journalism and all that kind of thing, and just missing live events. Round 13 is coming up next Friday on the 30th of October. So that's going to be kind of Halloween themed. And I've got 5 guests that are scheduled to join me. So if you're so inclined, check things out on Eclectic Arts here on Facebook, Eclectic Arts Media on Instagram, and Eclectic Arts WA. If you search that on YouTube, my channel should be the first thing that comes up. Okay, my guest today is a woman of many talents. She is the vocalist for extreme metal band Okkultist. She has amazing skills as a photographer, makeup artist, videographer, and many other artistic talents. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Beatriz Mariano. And let me get her in here. Hi, Beatriz.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really good too. All these interviews I've been doing with guests since May, anytime I ask them how they're doing, we can always say like, I'm doing great, and put like an asterisk next to it because of 2020. It's been such a crazy year, but all things considered, I've got my health. I've got a chance to talk with someone like yourself, and things, they're as good as they can be for the circumstances.
True. It's true. This is my very first interview this year. Not because I have not been having requests for interviews, but I just feel like I have not been in the right mental state to do an interview. And this is the first time it actually feels right because I've just been feeling actually pretty great the past month or two. And because it's you and we know each other and you've interviewed me before back in 2018 in the Doyle bus. It just felt so right. So I was like, oh my God, let's do this. Like, it feels right. It's my first interview this year. It's you.
Awesome. Well, I'm really honored that I get to be the first one this year in 2020. And yeah, I totally understand about when things don't feel right. When I was asked to go on the virtual tour with Alice, I was not in the best headspace right then. So I'm like, and I don't normally do this kind of thing where you're talking like a newscaster to a camera and all that kind of thing. And I'm so glad though that some part of me said you should say yes to this because they're great people, they're a great band. And then now look what happened. I'm into number 83 of these interviews, and again that the background that I've had in making connections pre-pandemic with someone like yourself is now 2 years later working out for me because you remembered who I was. I'm not a creep or a weirdo, hopefully.
Not at all.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So yeah, thank you for taking the time. And so if this is your first interview this year, that means we probably have quite a bit to discuss.
Yes.
Okay, so let's kind of get into it for people. You have such a distinct style with everything you do, from your video work, photography, your makeup work. It's just amazing to me. Let's kind of go to your background though. So like when you were younger, when did you first get involved with music or makeup or any of those kind of things that you are doing now as an adult?
I've been reflecting a lot on that lately, especially because with the pandemic, it makes me feel so lost with work. And so, like, am I going in the right direction? And am I doing the right thing? Like, what am I doing here? you know? So I've been reflecting a lot on how I got to where I got today and how much it took me by my entire self to get here. And it just makes me think how when I was a kid, I always had this need to work with art, and I've always wanted to do art. I didn't care which way or form. I just needed to do art and to put it out there for other people to enjoy because it brings me so much fulfillment and joy. And every time someone asks me, for example, like, "Oh, how did you get into photography?" and I was like, "I think my whole life I was interested in it." We have like home recording videos of me like as a child, like a 5-year old, 6-year old, where my parents are trying to record me and I'm like super frustrated because I want to be the one holding the camera and I'm like, no, no, like, and I'm like fighting them so that I can hold it and make videos. And like, I always used to have like disposable cameras. And I was actually telling this story to a friend of mine recently where I was telling her, uh, that there are a bunch of pictures that could be just like a blank wall, but at the moment I was really feeling that wall. It's like for some reason it made sense to me in my head. And I guess when someone is like born to do arts and to be an artist, we kind of have to spill it everywhere and kind of touch everything that we can make art with. So, you know, for the longest time, I wanted to be an illustrator and I still draw and I still paint. Um, and then when I got to high school, my teacher was like, "Okay, so today we're gonna introduce everybody to Photoshop," and I was like, "I don't care." I was like super anti-technology, and I was like, "Photoshop, I'm never gonna need that in my life." And like, I've been using Photoshop every single day in my life ever since that day. So I guess my interest in being an illustrator was like, okay, I'm gonna put a pause on this. Like maybe I don't want to do drawings forever. I still do them and I still work as an illustrator from time to time, but it just photography is like my thing, and music has always been there. I've always been like a crazy lover of music, and it always followed me everywhere. And like every time I felt sad, I needed music and I needed to listen to music. Every time that I was happy, I needed like I can't be in silence. Like even to go to sleep, like I think that a crazy person goes to sleep in silence. That's the sign of a psychopath. I cannot sleep in silence. I need to sleep with music on, and it's just always with me. And I learned how to play instruments as I was a kid up until now. I play the piano, I play drums. I actually recently started finally how to understand guitar because I've given it so many tries and I always give up just because I feel like I'm too stupid. But now I'm finally figuring guitar out, and I've always loved how to sing. And I'm not the greatest singer, but I've always loved doing it. And sometimes it doesn't really matter if you're great at it, but if it makes you happy, like just sing or just dance or whatever makes you happy. So the Ockultist project, which came later when I was in uni, it just made sense at the time. I was like, you know what, I want to do music, like besides the piano stuff, and I also played a theremin, and it's like and it just made sense at the time to start doing music, and I realized how much it completes my visual work because I'm so obsessed with movies and pictures and colors and everything that creating music just made so much sense to create with my visuals. And it felt like a missing piece when I started creating more music to my work, that today, like, it just makes no sense to not do music and not do both of them at the same time. And I end up exploring every single field that I can every time that I find some. I've lately been super into sculpting, and I've been finding like loads of special effects sculptors online. I was like, oh my god, I want to do this. I want to learn how to do this. So like anything that I find that brings arts, I just dive in and I start learning. So, I mean, it's been something so that's always been present in my life. And like I was telling you, I've been reflecting so much on this because it makes me think like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, and it makes sense. Like it's just always been there. And even for times where I've taken art for granted, and now I'm like, I could not live without any of it. Like it's just part of who I am.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that. I think any artistic person can relate to what you just said, that it's a part of who you are. It's something that you need. It's your lifeblood. And if you don't have it for a while, then it just brings you down completely. And when you're talking about having music all the time, like 24/7, I'm the same way. I'm old, so I have an old CD player, but it's literally right next to my bed. I have something playing usually when I'm going to sleep or when I'm trying to wake up. And it's just anytime I think artistic people are also like naturally curious. When there's a new art, like you were talking about sculpting, then we just kind of go into it. You don't kind of think about it. You just try to, maneuver it with your hands and whatever you want to do because you're fascinated by it, and that's what kind of feeds our soul.
Very true. Anything that brings us fulfillment, and especially it's like art is endless. So even if it's something like I've been doing photography or taking photography seriously ever since I was like 15 and I'm 26 now, so it's been like at least 11 years since I taken started taking this super seriously. And I still find new ways and new things to do something that I've been doing for over a decade. And so when we find something like I just found sculpting, it's like, wow, it's like a new word and a new world. And like it's always been there. It's like but it feels great to start new things. And God, like this pandemic, I've just been diving into so many fields of things that I've always say like one day I'll do this. And like it just feels like, you know what, I'm just gonna fucking do it. And if I suck, then at least I'm learning something.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, I know for myself that being a musician first, and then when I started doing writing, then I started doing photography, then I started doing all these kind of new things. It's like a new toy that you can start exploring things. And I want to say hi to Tony here in the chat. And hey, Big Ed, hopefully your cell service is still working. So hi to you.
It's big
And
yeah, watching.
he's trying to. He says he's driving and cell service sucks, but so he might get booted from the stream. But he's trying
Oh
to.
shit.
But
Hi, Big Ed.
yeah, Big Ed. Hopefully you're doing well, and we'll get a chance to see each other once this fucking pandemic's over, and we can get back to touring and events and all that kind of thing. But um, Beatrice, when you're talking about all the art things that you've been working on during the pandemic, and it's the same thing of like, yeah, I think everyone was saying, man, if I only had the time, if only I had the time, and then this thing happened. So it's like, well, you don't have an excuse now.
Yeah, it's kind of a what is the expression that you guys have? A double-edged sword or
Hmm.
a double-edged blade? Because when it first started, everybody was kind of like blasting, like, "Oh, you have all this free time, you have to create now." And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna create at my pace. And if I feel like creating, I will. Don't pressure me into creating just because now there's time. But I feel like it took the first few months I didn't do anything. I was just like sad that like this was happening and uncertainty and stuff. And it took me a while to settle in, especially when you're someone that is so when you feel things really hard, it's like it's both a blessing and a curse at the same time. So it took me a while to settle in and to start focusing on things again. It was very emotional and but I just felt the need to do stuff at a certain point. So I started doing stuff. Like I started and I'm saying this for the first time publicly. Oh my god, I'm illiterate now. It's like I say these things on Patreon, but I don't publicly talk about them. But I will share here that I started doing a solo project with it's an audiovisual project by my entire self just because I needed to zone out of everything. And I also started working on a horror short movie. So these are things that I've wanting to do for a long time, things that I have scripted for at least a year or two, but I never got around to do them. And I was like, fuck everything else. Don't fucking bother me. I'm just gonna like be in this box for a little bit. I need to isolate myself from everything else. And that has been my escape from the world. And it has become like therapeutic for me to focus on things that are also new. I'm learning a lot about mixing and mastering as well with music, something that I had no idea how to do, and I'm just now learning. And with same thing with shooting a movie because I do video clips and I do fashion movies and fashion short movies, but I've never developed entirely a screenplay. So I'm doing that for the first time my entire self, and it's very complicated. And but I'm loving every single bit of both processes, and it's amazing. And I've also started to learn Russian for like, why not? I was just like so bored. I was like, I'm just gonna learn Russian. So, my brain is all over the place with things.
That's amazing though that you're working on a solo project and also that you're working on a horror short film, because for me what happened during the pandemic was that I was just naturally looking at social media one day, and there was a film that I saw in like 2013, and there was supposed to be a follow-up that never happened. And then all of a sudden I saw a post about it. So, oh, coming to video on demand in April. And I'm kind of like, oh shit, they actually made this thing. So because of what I started doing pre-pandemic with all these kind of reviews of theater and musicals and all that kind of stuff, I reached out to them, say, hey, is there any way I can review this in advance and write a review of it? And they said, oh yeah, absolutely. So they sent the link to me. And then long story short, that turned into, I'm now writing for like 13 or 14 different independent movie studios, and
Wow.
including horror stuff. So I am absolutely intrigued by film and that whole process because that's something foreign to me. So as you're going through your own process, and when that gets to the point where you have it completed, I would absolutely love to take a peek at it and do a review if that's something you're okay with down the road. But because
Yes.
I love all levels of, if you're a first time filmmaker, if you're someone, like for Lionsgate and Magnolia that I also write for, and everything in between, I love all of it. So I'm totally into that kind of thing.
I would be honored. It's gonna suck because it's my very first, so but I would totally be honored.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's not going to suck. Knowing how every artist is their own worst critic, and I understand it because I'm the same way. That you put it out there and you're like, oh, I hope everybody, someone likes it or they watch it or they think it's cool, and then find parts that you want to pick at as soon as you see it. Like, oh, I could have done that differently. Oh, what happened there? But just from a fan's point of view out here, and someone who again reviews a lot of film, I think you're going to put out something really spectacular.
Oh, thank you. Now the pressure is up. But
Oh.
I mean, I'm just trying and I'm just learning how to do everything is gonna be self-shot just because I wanted to isolate myself from everything. And it's not how do you say, in a bitchy kind of way. Like, no, I don't need anybody. But like I do been doing self-portrait for like a decade. So like it made sense to self shoot the short movie. Also because this is just this I'm not taking this as a super professional and serious, a super serious experience to be in a theater. It's like, no, I'm just experimenting and I'm trying and I'm having fun with it. So I don't have like this, I don't even have a schedule for it. I'm just doing it at my own pace and figuring things out. And sometimes I shoot something and I'm like, you know what? Like I can do this better. So I end up scrapping it and doing it all over again. So it takes time. I don't want to be this, and I'm sorry, like to say this, and I hope nobody interprets this as shade, but I don't want this to be like a verotica experience. Like I'm a like I love horror, and I'm like I like Danzig's stuff a lot, but that verotica movie is like, I'm so sorry, but it's like I could not take that seriously. It's like, I'm so sorry. Like, no tea, no shade. It's just it felt like something done for the first time, presented in a professional platform. And I was like, I'm sorry, but no. It's just my opinion. Everyone
Sure.
has their own opinion, and but I don't want it to be like that because to me, as a fan, it was disappointing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
And I don't want people to expect this to be something like, oh my god, she's like gonna put a movie and blah blah. It's like, no, it's like it's made for fun. It's not a super serious thing, and I'm probably gonna fuck up a lot. So it's like, no big deal.
No, I think you articulated that well. It means that it's a personal project for you. It's an artistic outlet. So if people understand going into this, whenever it does get sees the light of day, then they can just watch it for what it is, not expect it's not a multi-million-dollar horror film that came out of
Yeah.
Hollywood or something, or even like $1 million horror film. It's something that you wanted to do artistically, and people can take it any which way they want.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is meant to be seen as something fun. It's not something to be like, oh my god, best horror movie ever. It's like, it's not gonna be great. And I know that it's not gonna be great. And I don't want it to be great. I'm doing it to have fun with it, and I want people to see that with me. It's kind of like I want people to experience the fans, to experience the visual of learning with me. It's kind of like when I make shootings for the first time, and I post online and I'm like, hey, I didn't really know how to do this, but here's my try if you guys want to look at it. It's the same thing. I don't want this to be super it's not gonna be spectacular. So it's just I want people to feel like entertained and appreciate, like, oh, like she's working on that. Okay, that's cool. Like whatever. It's like, it's for fun, really, more than anything.
Yeah, no, and that's great. I mean, I'm not going to divulge too much on my own end, but I've been working on a personal project as well, which I have not told anyone other than one close friend. And that started during the summertime. So when it sees the light of day, if it sees the light of day, I'll be saying the exact same thing. This is my first time doing this, and I did it for fun. It's like an artistic outlet, a release for me. And if you get some enjoyment or it resonates with you on some level, hey, that's great. But it wasn't meant to win awards or anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just kind of doing it to do it. And yeah, I see that Ed's still hanging in there with his cell service, so that's good. And Tony's saying, knowing your work, it won't suck. So hey, you got another supporter.
Thank
Um,
you. I just
yeah.
realized that there's a chat and I didn't know.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. It's over on the corner, so you can kind of see, and it shows you like what platform they're on. So like Ed's on YouTube and Tony's on Twitch because it has the little icon next to the
Oh
name.
yeah.
Yeah, so you
I'm
can kind of,
Wow, I'm such a noob, but like this is really cool. Like this
you know,
platform is awesome.
well, you know what? I'm not a tech person at all, and being on that tour with Alice, they're the tech people. They did all that kind of stuff. So when I had to do these on my own, I was like, I need something that can just do this for me. Because, uh,
Yes, that's exactly what this is. Yeah.
yep, yeah, it's like pre-made. It's ready to go. You just sign up for it. Pay a little bit of money a month depending on what you want to do, and then there it is. And to see that, yeah, like what Ed's saying about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's true. No one
Yeah.
thought it was going to be big, and it's a freaking legendary film. Um, can I let's kind of segue into that since you're divulged that about that your personal project that you're working on. When did you first get into horror? What was there a first film? What kind of got you into that whole realm?
Oh my god. I'm so passionate about horror, and I try to find about as many movies and characters and people as much as I can. I don't know, like it stuck with me ever since I was a kid. And I think the earliest experience into I'm going to call it horror like this, um, is my mom would always say how when I was like a toddler and she would play, the Disney cassettes
Mhm.
for me to be entertained. The the one that I wanted to watch all the time was Snow White, and I would always ask her to replay the scene where she's lost in the woods and she's like scared and all of these like creepy faces and voices going on. My mom would always ask, why do you want to watch it if you're so scared of it? And I was like, I just want to watch it. And she would always put it on replay on that scene. And I would just be like petrified looking at it. I was like, oh my God. So I guess it just like it kind of stuck with me, the horror, like ever since being like small. And I don't remember the very first exact movies that I saw, but I was obsessed with stuff like Nightmare Before Christmas, and I still know like every single line of that movie, or stuff like I don't know, Ghostbusters. I mean, well, Ghostbusters is a comedy, but like as a kid, I didn't really understand, you know, and I don't know. I remember, for example, the first time I watched the Hellraiser, and that's why I have
Mhm.
Doug Bradley tattooed on my arm. Oh my god, illiterate! I don't know how to speak. I'm sorry. Um, the first time I watched it, I was just so in love with the character and with the movie. And like to me, Hellraiser is more of a romance other than really a horror movie. And everybody's like, how can you find beauty in the middle of all that? And I'm like, I don't know, I just love it. It's beautiful to me and I want to watch it forever. So I don't know, it's like horror movies have something, it's like magic to them, other than watching a romance or a comedy. It's like horror movies are they when you make a horror movie, it's almost like you expect it for people to feel like scared or surprised, or But to me, I've always felt like a million things at the same time watching horror movies. Watching scenes with Pinhead, for example, to me was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't just like take my eyes out of it just because it's such a surreal fantasy. And either it's that or like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or any other thing. It's just it brings me so much comfort looking at those. And I'm not talking like, oh, it feels great to watch people murder people. It's not that feeling. It's just like, wow, someone really went out there and put out a fantasy that people are scared to think about or to look at. And I feel like that kind of brings a million emotions in you when you're watching something that, I mean, it's so, I don't know, like I don't know how to explain this. It's just so full of life to me, full of imagination and fantasy, and I love it. It's much more than any other genre out there. It's so beautiful to me.
Yeah, no, we have something in common. I mean, I saw Hellraiser in the theater when it got released. That's how old I am. Uh,
You're not old. Stop saying that.
but I have a absolute affinity for it. I have my one sheet Hellraiser poster that was signed by Clive Barker when I met him years ago. I've got my book signed by Doug Bradley. I've met Doug and interviewed him in person. And I just remember seeing in the theater in Bellevue, Washington, watching Hellraiser, and there is such a aesthetic to that film in particular that is beyond horror. And I think that's why it stood the test of time. That came out in what, 86, 87, I want to say. And here we are in 2020 and people still love it. And it's interesting. You're probably already aware of this since you're a huge, Hellraiser and Doug Bradley and horror fan, but that he almost didn't do that role.
Yeah, he
And
almost didn't do it.
yeah, he came from the theater background, and he was offered this Cenobite role, or offered the mover, one of the movers that moves into the house with the furniture, like a really small role, and he almost picked that one.
That's why I love him. He's so humble.
He is, because I asked him about this. So what do you think would have happened if you had not taken the Cenobite slash Pinhead role and did that mover role? And he had to sit there and think about it. He's like, I really don't know. I don't know if I would have gone back to theater or what would have happened. But obviously, because of that one decision, his whole life changed because of it, and reprised the role many, many times, and still does it to this day. That's what he's known for. Yeah, see, I completely agree. Cenobites, Hellraiser, people are digging that.
Yeah. And I actually got a video from Doug Bradley this week, and I started teaching makeup classes during the pandemic because I needed to do something that I just felt like I needed to give something to people. And there I always get so many people requesting, like, I don't know how to do this. How do you do this? How do you do that? So I started doing this for other people. And it's been so fulfilling and it's brought so much joy. And one of the people that I'm teaching classes called Lisa, and Lisa works at Comic Cons. And she was like, hey, I noticed that you have a Doug Bradley tattoo on your arm. If you could ask him anything, what would you ask? And I say, I want to know, like, if you felt close to playing Pinhead, like to his personality, because uh, I'm a huge I'm a huge Angelina Jolie fan, and I saw an interview of her talking about Maleficent, where she says she felt like she was not doing a good work because she was just being herself. She was like, "This character is me," and I felt the whole time like I was not acting, and I was scared that I wasn't doing like a good job portraying Maleficent because I was not making an effort into being Maleficent because I felt like we're the same person. So I always wanted to know if that was the case, like if there was something about Pinhead that made him feel like he was not acting like he was himself, even though like Pinhead is like a horrible person. But you understand like the feeling, if he had the feel of being close to the character Pinhead. And she was like, oh, that's very interesting, okay. And then a few days later she was like, I need you to check your email, there's something really important in there. And I was like, okay. And I checked it, and it was a video message from Doug Bradley directed to me answering that question. And I was like, oh, how did you do this? It's like a 4 or 5 minute long video of him. And the first time I watched it, I couldn't watch it. Like he was talking and I was just like crying the whole time. I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Why did I just get this? It was like I couldn't hear anything he was saying. But it was so beautiful and it's brought me so much joy just because I've been feeling so lost in the pandemic and with everything, to get something like that is like, okay, I'm in the right track. This is a sign from the universe saying that I'm doing good. And the video of him, he's just like sitting down and he's just like saying, "Hi, Beatrice. I hope I'm saying your name right." And I was like, "Yes, you are." Like, completely overwhelmed and emotional. And oh god, it's, to me, that was such a beautiful gift. And this is someone who did this after the first makeup lesson we had together, and she was like, "You're someone so special. I want to give you something, and like, for you, I want to make something for you." And she gave me that, and it has brought me so much light in the middle of so much like confusion. And it made me so happy to have that video. And I watch it every day, every day. Like, the first thing I do when I wake up is like, "Hi, Beatrice, blah, 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 blah." And I was like, I already know everything he's going to say, but I just have to watch it. I was like, oh, God, this man, oh my God, bless his heart. He's so pure and he's so real. And oh my God, I loved it. I loved it.
That is a beautiful story. I mean, from the person that was, watching your makeup tutorial to then connect with Doug and have him do that for you. Yeah, I mean, any of those silver linings during this time, and then look at the impact it had on you, of that gal taking the initiative to have Doug say something for 5 minutes on a video clip to you. And like you said, you watch it every day, it inspires you, makes you feel good, and makes you know that you're on the right path, that the things that you're doing are affecting people in a positive way. And amongst all this shit out here, we need those things, and all of us need those things for sure. Again, for myself, just being on that tour with Alice, that I've got so much love and positivity, and I connected with all these other artists around the world. And I'm almost like, I feel sometimes a little bit ashamed that it was so good to me, compared to other folks that in the media world out here in Seattle, at least, that don't have that. I'll see their posts about, "Gosh, I wish I could be shooting a concert," or "Here's something from 2 years ago," and I'm like, I totally feel that, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I just appreciate this so much more of these opportunities that I have right now, because not everybody has them.
Exactly. Not everybody has them. That's exactly it. And that's why I started the makeup classes too, is because I felt like I'm not we're all feeling completely messed up and lost in the middle of this. And there are I get like dozens of messages every day from people that say like, "Your work inspires me so much to go on every day and to explore new things and to do new things." And I just wanted to give something back to the people that support me, because I'm not special. I'm not more than any other person. So to hear something like saying that I inspire them to go on and to do things, and some people say like, "Oh, I love to work to look at your work because it just transports me to a different reality. I needed that really bad right now." So like, you are giving me that joy, and so I just wanted to give that back to people. And it's been really really fulfilling doing these things. I know makeup sounds like something very basic, but the biggest percentage in the audience I speak to are makeup lovers and people that don't understand how it works and want to know how it works. And it's something so simple, but that brings so much joy to these people and to me, because I'm connecting with people and because we're making new friends. And they at the end of each class, I always hear something like, "Oh my God, like, you helped me so much understand this, and just this little bit together has made me so happy." And I was like, wow, I feel the same, and we're talking about makeup. So I guess it's exactly the feeling like getting that video from Doug Bradley is like completely inspires me into doing what I do.
Yeah, and I would not make small about makeup artistry at all. Being, well, also for me being a photographer, I know how important it is. I also know how it is something that completely transforms the photo, and you know that better than anybody. That if you have some makeup artist skills, you can kind of take those around the world with you if you have those going. So when people see your work, and people that don't know makeup, like myself even, or some of the other folks, some of the other fans that are in the chat right now, that they're just blown away. They're like, "Holy crap!" I mean, look at that. And they're also looking at your photo work and your post work and everything else. It's like, man, there's such an artistry that comes from anything that you put your hand on. That's why it's like they want to see everything that you do, and that's rare. It's you've basically branded yourself already at a young age, and that's awesome.
Thank you. I try, but I know that all of this came by accident. Because I started, I I started taking photography seriously for me and not like, I'm gonna be the biggest photographer ever. I had no idea what I wanted to do. It's like I just picked up a camera and I just started doing stuff. And I was like, oh, this would be cool. I'm gonna do this and that and that. And then I just started posting online. You know that I came onto platforms much later than people my age. I'm a millennial. I'm from '94. And I remember I got to high school and I didn't have Facebook or Instagram or anything. I had a Nokia. And everybody was like jumping onto iPhones and I was like, no, I'm sticking with my Nokia. and and everybody was like, "What? You don't have Facebook? You don't have Instagram?" And I was like, "I don't need that to be somebody. I don't need that." And then later on, I was like, "Okay, I'm starting to understand that if you don't have a online presence, that you don't really exist to the world these days." So I started posting my stuff online and being like, yeah, I'm just gonna share what I do to other people and be like, if you like it, cool. If you don't, cool. I don't care. I'm doing this for me." And what happened was that brands started picking up what I was doing. And I was like, I'm sorry, we really like what you do. Can you do this for us? And I was like, really? Okay. Like, fine. And the first big brand that I worked with was Rogan Wolf. And they were the second brand I ever started working with. The very first brand, I was 17. I was working with this company from Poland, I think, called Steel. They do shoes, they do boots. They're very popular. I stopped working with them because I stopped working with they work with real leather and I
Uh,
don't support animal cruelty of any sort. And they're great people. They prefer to work with real leather, but I personally prefer to not be associated with anything that contributes to animal cruelty. But so Rogan Wolf was the very first big brand apart from Steel that I jumped on, and from there things just took off. And it was actually like this. They were like, "Do you want to do this for us?" I said, "Okay." I hired a model. We took pictures, and what happened was I hired the model, and then she postponed the shooting, and they really needed the pictures, and I was like, "Oh, I am fucked." She postponed it, and I have a deadline to meet. So what I did was I took pictures of myself first, and then I did the shooting. So I sent them the stuff, of my stuff of me first, and I was like, "Hey, she postponed. I'm really sorry. It's not my fault, but I took pictures of me, so you can use those pictures until we make the shooting." And then they were really happy with both the shootings. And then they were like, "You know what? We want to book another shooting with you, but we want you to be the model." And I was like, um this was not planned. like, like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, like, the model is perfect, but we just like you so much the way you fit with the brand, so like, can we work with you like this? And I was like, okay. And then one thing came after the other. Like, I just immediately started working with all these people. Rogan Wolf, Killstar, immediately. Lime Crime was the first PR makeup that I started working with, and they're a big makeup brand. And it's like you're saying, makeup is not as simple as people think it is. It's not just putting on a red lipstick and an eyeliner. Like, you can completely change yourself up. To me, it's like special effects makeup because you are changing your entire self without, I don't know, latex or prosthetics or cosmetic surgery. Makeup really can modify and transport you to a different place or to a different body. And it's just it I mean, I came from a super focused on illustration background, and I was studying arts and painting and stuff. So to me it made sense to paint on my face or on me or on my body, so it's like it
mhm.
merged together really nicely. So it came all this whole thing of like doing this kind of stuff completely came by accident, by working with these people that thought that what I was doing was cool. And and I just kept on doing. And I've always been a very independent person, and everything that I built by my entire self. I'd never ask for help, and I do everything alone, and I love doing everything alone. So I've whenever I needed something, I'll just learn how to do it. So we're here in 2020, and I do the modeling, photography, pre-production, post-production. I learn what's to deal with all the softwares. I build the props, I build clothes, I build everything. And I do the music, I do the master, the mixing, the recordings, the shooting video. I've even built tripods and lights out of scrap. and I do everything just like completely from scratch by myself. And sometimes people don't even realize that because they don't. Many people don't put the effort into finding out what are you looking at. So I've always had this conflict a little bit, but I think it happens everywhere. It's just like when you're not a super big personality, you deal more with people like this, I think. And it's like, oh, all she does is to sit in front of a camera and look pretty. And I'm like, you have no idea the amount of hours that took me to do that. You have no idea. I remember when we put out our Sign of the Reaper video clip. Again, I did everything by myself. I made the videos of the boys. They came to my studio and I shot them. I shot the things of myself. I did the body painting. I did the lights. I did everything. I edited. I did everything alone, and all I could hear was just people like, "All she gotta do is sit on a chair and like be pretty." And I'm like, "Excuse your ass. You don't know. You don't know how much. You don't know how much goes into it. Just that skull makeup I did yesterday took me 5 hours to put that shit on my face. It's like the people don't seem to understand how complicated makeup is.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And what I love of what you just said is that you really have gotten to a point where you're self-reliant. You do if you see something that you need for your project, then you figure out a way to learn it, figure out a way to do it. You don't look at it as like an obstacle. Well, I can't figure this out, so well, fuck it. I guess I got to go ask somebody to to work on that, and that's fine for some people. I'm not knocking that down, but when you can figure out things on your own, then you can also take ownership of all of that 100% because you know everything that happened with that, any success with it, anything that people resonate and they like, you did it. And I can totally relate to that because Eclectic Arts started from nothing. It wasn't even an idea, and I basically have done everything. So it's that kind of work ethic where you just want to keep pushing, you want to keep learning, you want to keep expanding, and it's just yeah, you're absolutely right that some people who don't do those kind of things, they don't understand. They don't have a clue what goes into things. Even like doing an interview, doing 83 interviews, they think, well, you just get in front of your device and just start talking, right? It's like, fuck no, that's not how that's not how it works. So
People.
yeah, yeah, no, much respect for you, doing everything that you do and learn and continue to learn to add things to your repertoire.
Thank you. And it really is like feel like everything new that I dive in becomes part of what I'm doing, and it just makes sense. There's no how do you say, temporary phases of things that I'm doing. It's like everything just ends up completing what I do, and I end up. I think someone once, one client once said, like, you are like a production machine of like doing these things because you are one person doing the job of 10 people, and I'm like, I guess I kind of am, but it just feels good to do these things. And right now, I am 26 and I know how to professionally deal with the acting, the modeling, the makeup, the taking pictures, making video, the building props to make it look good to be seen, and pre-production, post-production. And I mean, these are things that I've been dealing every single day of my life for over a decade. And I've been doing these things. Now I do this full time, but I was studying and I know I have a master's degree in photography and design and visual culture. I was studying, I was working at the same time to pay for uni, and I was still finishing exams from high school because I wanted to be better and better, and I was taking my driving license, and I was doing everything at the same time, and it never kept me from doing anything. And I never failed a class. I never postponed the class, to do years later or something. I did everything. Even when I finished my licentiate degree, I immediately jumped on to my master's degree, and I'm really proud to say that I finished with the highest grade of my class. And my work is on the national, how do you say, the National Archive, because I did a thesis on surrealism, and my name is on a fucking archive. It's like at the time, how old was I? 23, 20, 22, 23, and I'm bad with math. But and it just makes me think how when you love something, you you make ways to do it. If you don't want it, then you make excuses. You know, where there's a will, there's a way, and if you want it, you do it. Like there's nothing to stop you.
Yeah, very, very, very well said. I think that if you have that passion and that drive, and like you said, if it's something you want to do, then you will find a way to make it happen. And that could be that you're making sacrifices here and there, but at the end of the day, if this is what you want, then you're gonna give it everything you got. And that's congratulations to you for that accolade for your master's and your thesis. You know, being in an archive. I mean, that's high honor stuff. So it's again, that's kudos to you. That means you have an inner drive in you that other people have, but not everybody has that. So some part of you drives you, and there's going to be times when when you're, especially during a pandemic, like we talked about earlier, where you're kind of like not feeling it, and you kind of need to veg out for a bit and kind of take a break. Everyone's been like that, myself included. But then you kind of find a time where like something kind of starts, nipping at you to kind of like I need to do something, or I want to start exploring this, or I need to start getting back to what I love. And it just kind of takes time. And you're right, it is a double-edged sword, like you said many minutes ago about having this time off. It's like on one part of your brain, you're thinking, oh, I should be doing all this stuff. And then other part of your brain could be thinking like, I don't really feel this right now. I don't feel the resonation. But then like right now, it's changed. You are feeling it. You are wanting to do these things. You are giving back. You are getting some things from the universe. If it's a Doug Bradley video, which is fucking awesome. There's all kinds of those things. So, and you can't predict it. It just kind of happens. Even like you were saying, you weren't intending to be the model for that shoot initially, but the model, bailed on you initially. So, well, I better just take these shots because I have a deadline. And then organically, they say, hey, we like your stuff. Why don't you be the model again? Like, huh? It just keeps going. So that's awesome.
One thing leads to the other, and still to this day, I still model for them, and I'm very loyal to them. I feel like if it wasn't for them picking me up, I don't know which course I would be going. I know that I would be doing what I'm doing today, but I just don't know how would it been, how what would have been like, and it was really good to immediately start working with them. And then right after, I started working with people like Killstar, and then from Killstar I was shooting catalogs for Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie, and it was like I was like so overwhelmed when I would get those emails and be like, "Hey, we got this catalog. Do you want to shoot it?" And I'll be like, "Fuck yes, I do." It's like and to see them, and then to see those people, they have no idea who I am or who the fuck is behind all those shootings. But to see them share my work and be like, "Here's my merch, whatever," I would be like, "Wow!" Like, look, Marilyn Manson is posting about a picture I took. He doesn't even know I took it, but it's like it's my picture. The same with Rob Zombie, or it's just insane. And then of course to work with people, I've shot stuff also for like Dark Funeral, and they are super cool guys, and this was like years ago. And then I mean, I just get so overwhelmed because in the back of my head I'm just like I'm this kid playing with cameras, and oh my god, this is so overwhelming.
I understand what you're saying, but it's also it's because you're very humble. You're somebody that does art for art's sake, and so when someone of those statures come to you and say, "Hey, we want you to shoot, yeah, Marilyn Manson or Rob Zombie," and you're kind of like, "Holy shit!" I grew up with their music, or you see the other stuff that they've done, and it's just such an honor, and that's so refreshing to hear from somebody, because it's easy to get a big head if artists like that start coming to you. It's like, wow, I really am good. I really am someone that should be doing this. And I think there's a balance there that has to happen.
Yeah, it was not directly them that reached me. It was Killstar was doing the collections for them, and Killstar thought that I would be the person to shoot them. And I was like, yes, yes, I do. It's like I don't even care that if they never see the pictures. But of course, since it's their merch, and they want to sell, and they were sharing the merch. But I was like, oh my god, I did that! Like, and it's just so overwhelming for me to see. Or sometimes even little things. Sometimes I'm like on a computer doing shit, and I open a tab and I see a pop-up banner, and it has my picture for, it doesn't matter, Killstar, Rogan Wolf and stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm on my screen. Like, the other day I was watching a PewDiePie video. I've been watching PewDiePie videos ever since he started his channel, because I feel like our generation would go on YouTube and deep dive on YouTube, especially because I also love horror games, and he started with the Amnesia games, which I love. So I was watching a PewDiePie video the other day, and the ad was one of my ads, and I was like, "Holy shit! I want an ad for a PewDiePie video." I knew that this was gonna happen because that's what the ads were made for. But to see it happen to me, I was like, "Holy shit, that's me!" It's so funny.
That's awesome. And Tony, I want to thank you for that comment. I've been reading it right now in the chat about in terms of how I do my research and things with the interviews, and people that make excuses and people that strive for more. And he's talking about how humble you are, Beatrice. I don't think that's well. I think I'm kind of humble too, but
We're
I
both
think
humble.
and I'm looking like right near on my wall. I have some like photo passes, from shows that I've shot, and yeah, it makes me smile. It makes me feel good. So like when you're talking about seeing something of your own work, for me, it's like I'll see pictures of people I met, like Jeff Bridges and Elvira, and that kind of thing. And yeah, it just makes me feel like this is kind of one of the reasons why I do this. But overall, it just it just makes me feel good.
To have the recognition from someone you admire is just so. I mean, the same thing with Doyle and Alex, of course. Like, I was completely like blown away. Like, and I was giving the example of Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie because those were the first, or even Kat Von D. Kat Von D sent me a package when the her beauty brand started booming. She sent me a package. This was back in 2016. A package with a note. I don't have I have a wall where I put all the notes that people sent me, but I don't see it, or else I would grab it for you. It's probably behind this. It's better not touch it because it already fell once. She sent me a note saying, "I hope you like this," and then she signed it, and I was like, "Holy shit!" She sent me a package with her stuff because she felt like I would like it to use for my artistry. So that was very receive something. I don't know how to explain this to you. I feel like in Portugal specifically, such a small country, it is so hard to just own the alternativeness of the tattoos and stuff. People, at least where I'm at, it's not very there are many people like this, but it's not casually accepted. Kind of, it's still the thing, oh, if you have tattoos you're not going to get a job kind of thing, which is kind of dumb. So like, to see someone who I watched LA Ink and stuff on MTV all the time to send me a package signed by them, it was like, I was like, "Why me though?" Like, out of all the people in the world, why are you sending packages to me? Like, she sent me a couple packages, and it was like completely like, "Whoa, what is happening?" Like, I just got a note from this person, and it's so nice.
Well, that's high praise, meaning that she obviously saw something of yours and was so moved by it that she thought, "Wow, I want to send some of my stuff to a fellow artist, someone that would appreciate it." And clearly, you appreciate it, and that's I've talked about this with other guests on the Alice tour that I was a part of, where when someone's in your corner supporting you, that's such a huge boon. And if it's somebody of any kind of, I don't want to say celebrityism, but if they're known on some level, it's even more so that so Kat Von D sends you this package of her makeup products. You're like, holy crap, because I know exactly who that is, and I watched LA Ink and all that kind of stuff. So it's a big deal.
I cried so much. Because to me, Kat Von D was the icon of being alternative and a powerful, independent woman. Because she was getting so much shit on that show for being a
Yeah.
girl, or for, I mean, she had all those addictions she had because she was dealing with so many like bullshit at the same time while being on TV, which it makes it like 10 times worse. You don't have a moment for yourself. So to me, she was this ultimate icon of, yeah, I'm alternative, and you can go fuck yourself. So she every time I would see her, I'd be like, one day I'm going to be super tattooed like that. And I'm going to tell everybody to fuck off. So to me, growing up with her on MTV was such an icon. I mean, the same thing with Moonspell. We are on the Moonspell label, Occultist.
Mhm.
And I mean, I grew up watching their video clips and Sonia's video clips. She's Fernando's wife.
Mhm.
And I've seen their video clips on MTV, and I grew up with them on the TV. And to be next to them and to talk to them and to feel the love and support is just so out of this world to me. To be like, wait a minute, these people were on the other side of a screen when I was like 13, 14, and now I'm like talking to them and working with them. what is this? Like if I went back in time to like little me and be like, that person is gonna like, talk to you, that person's gonna like send you something, you're gonna be working with them, I would be like, because like it's not the kind of expectation you have when you grow up. You see these things and you're just like, "Wow, that's awesome." And that's it. Yeah, like you become a fan, but you don't like expect anything else other than that. So to be years later working with them is just out of this world completely.
Yeah, no, I get, I totally feel what you're saying. Because for me, first concert I ever went to was in 1979. I saw Kiss, and and even when I started doing Eclectic Arts in 2011, I was communicating with some black metal bands, but I was also communicating with lots of other things that had nothing to do with music. And I had just seen this artist here in Seattle at this big festival, and then about 3 months later, I'm on the phone interviewing her, and it was just like surreal to me. I'm like, holy shit, I just saw you and I was such a fan, and now I get a chance to talk to you. And then eventually, like 3 years later, I actually got to meet her in person and do another interview, and things. And you know this, when I got a chance to meet you here in Seattle 2 years ago, and interviewing Doyle and Alex and everybody else, it's like here I am, like finding this music that really has like supported me through some really awful times, and then here's the person who made it right in front of me. I'm so super grateful for those opportunities. I will never ever take them for granted ever.
Yes, exactly. I could not agree more, and that's exactly how I feel. Like never take any of that for granted. I don't expect for those things. I don't hope for those things. I just focus on what I'm doing. And I mean, I'm just so overwhelmed, and so even getting support for someone like Elisa, for example, who's super supportive of what I do, and she's had me as a, how do you say, a guest on her Patreon, and it's just, I have to take a second out of those moments to sit with myself and be like, what just happened? Like, how did I get here? What am I doing here? Who am I? Is life a simulation? Like, but I'm so thankful and so grateful for all those experiences. I don't know. There are no words for me to explain this to you exactly how I feel. It's just, to me, it's exactly what you said. It's like not take any of this for granted. And I just focus on what I'm doing. And if someone like that likes it, appreciates it, and supports it, I'm like, wow, thank thank you. This is not the reason why I did it, but the fact that you're here supporting me is means the world. Just like I was not expecting to get the Doug Bradley video, and like, it was sent to me. And I was like, or the Kat Von D package, or like it
Yeah,
completely takes my breath away.
yeah. No, and again, the fact that your perspective is so grounded in what you do with your work, being focused on what you do, and then when people appreciate it on any level, it doesn't matter who they are in the world, that you are so appreciative of them. It reminds me of I think it was an interview I saw with Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse, when he was talking about he didn't understand, like when other artists, and he wouldn't name anybody, that when they're given gifts from fans like artwork and that kind of thing, that they just toss it. He has a whole binder of stuff that he keeps in there. He's real particular about it, make sure it doesn't get folded or dented. And he said, I love this stuff. These fans took so much time to do this. I appreciate it so much. And it's something similar that it doesn't matter what level you get to. Some people have that perspective and some people don't. And it's so refreshing that you have that perspective.
I love the fans. Like you were just talking about that. It's like when I look at myself and what I do, I don't see myself as like, some people come up to me and you're like, "You're a celebrity." I'm like, "I'm not a celebrity. I'm a person online." It's like, what the hell? It's so crazy. But for example, when I was joining the everybody in Doyle, and sometimes they would do the meet and greets, and someone would come up to me and be like, "I know who you are, and I love your stuff. Can I get a picture?" And I would be like, "I'm sorry, you're in a room with these people and you want a picture with me? What for?" I'm nobody. But I remember when I went to the Oddities flea market in New York to work with Necromancy Cosmetica, they invited me to work with them to be on their booth and stuff. and I was with them, and this fan came to me, and I have her drawing right here, and I look at it. I'm not gonna touch this because this is gonna fall. And I have the drawing here with me, and she came to me and she was like, "I love your work so much, and I've been following you for all these years. I made this drawing of you," and she gave me a drawing and a T-shirt with the drawing on it, which I have. I know exactly what it is. I'm pointing in that direction. It's right there, but I mean, I'm not gonna move it. I don't wear it. It's super decently folded so the drawing doesn't get like wrinkles on it, and it's so special to me, and it's like these people are looking up to me the same way I look up to Kat Von D, for example. And it's like at the time looking up to Kat Von D. Right now, you grow up and whatever, and these people looking up to me like that, and I'm like, why though? Like, I'm nobody. And it just, you feel so, I don't know. It's like to hear these people being all like, no, but like you inspire me and you do this and that, and I was like, wow, really? Me out of all the people in the world, you choose me? Like, it is such a humble feeling, and it makes me so. It's the feeling I get with fans is the same feeling from like these people sending me the packages and stuff, because they make me feel so special, and they make me feel like I matter. I'm sorry if this sounds super depressing, but it really is, like how they say how like I changed them, or how I my work inspires them to do what they do today, or sometimes, if it wasn't for this thing you said, this in my life would have never happened, and I'm like, wow, okay. I'm just here like, like a baby, just like, oh my god, okay, super overwhelmed. God, but it's so amazing to see so many people feeling an impact with what we do, and it's just so out of this world to me. And it's the same with you, like when you work with these people. And I mean, the same reaction I got is like, I mean, I've been having asking to be interviewed many times this year, and I keep saying like, I don't want to talk to nobody. But then you ask, and it's like, I know him and I know who this person is. Like, it makes total sense. And the same thing is with you. Just like when you're saying like, then you went up to go to the shows and to meet the people, and they know who you are, and it's like, it's just a feeling so out of this world. You're like, I think I'm doing something right. So, yeah.
You are definitely doing something right. Just like Ed was saying, you are somebody. And so when fans come,
Oh,
when fans come up to you and talk about, yeah, how you inspired them or how you got them through a tough time, it's something you can relate to personally. Clearly I'm not on that level, but if someone is just inspired by anything that I do, and they message me, which happens sometimes, particularly about interviews, then it's like, I'm just completely floored by it. It's like, like you said, if all the people out there that do what people do, you somehow gravitated toward me, or something resonated with how I do my work or go about my business. And so I'm more than happy to talk about, here's what I did, here's the trials and tribulations I went through trying to start shit and getting, how do you get to this level, then this level, then this level? How did you start doing, covering the opera or the ballet or what have you? I have no secrets. I'm totally an open book in terms of helping people out, because I don't think of myself that way at all. It just seems that the day that, if, for some reason down the road, if anyone ever asks me for an autograph, that's when I'll just flip out, because I'll be like, what? Why do you want my autograph? I'm just a dude that lives in Seattle that does this media outlet thing. But I understand the mentality that you're talking about, because I think it's just like, you're not expecting it. So when it happens, you're like, holy shit.
I still can't feel normal. Every time someone asks me for an autograph or a picture, I'm like, okay, here it is. I don't understand why, but okay. I mean, it makes them happy, and it makes me happy to see them happy. So it's like, of course, like but I mean, I will never get used to that feeling of someone wanting something signed for me. Sometimes, I sell merch online, and I get a note in the order saying, "Can Beatrice autograph this for me?" And I'm like, in every package, I always send a handwritten note to
Mhm.
everybody. So it's like, you're getting all the autographs you want. So like, I sign the stuff, I send a super extra special note to that person. And it's funny because sometimes I get the DMs people like, I made this order and I asked you to autograph, and like the note you wrote is so special to me, and it makes me like they get the package, but they like the note better than the stuff. And it makes me so happy, and it's just so nice to see that people are touched by your human side, because for some reason we're kind of like perceived as non-human. And it's like, but it's so good to see, and it feels amazing.
Yeah, I remember you had a note when I ordered the Occultist shirt from you.
Yeah, I always put in the notes, like, I think it's, I mean, it means so much when people buy our art or our merch. And like, I need to, since I can't hug the person physically, I will sign in the notes. Like, here's a hug and a note, you know? So it makes all the sense to write back. And thank you for buying our merch.
Yeah, no, and it's those little things, the fact that you take the time to, personally write a note for every order that, comes in, that's what helps plant those seeds into a fan base that will become rabid, because they know that you're connected to them and that you care about them, because not every band does that. And I'm looking over to my right, and I have a note from another band, and she wrote, it happened to be near my birthday, so she was like, oh, I hope you have a happy birthday on it. I'm kind of like, holy shit. This person who probably had, I don't know, 100 orders to do, took the time to write a note for me for something that I ordered from their site. And I haven't gotten rid of it. It's still sitting there like 6-7 years later. So it's the same type of thing.
It is so nice. I remember I got an order from a dude I met at one of the shows. I mean, it sounds wrong the way I put it, but he came up to me and I was like, "Hey, I got your picture tattooed on my arm." And like, there are like hundreds. I was gonna say dozens, but literally hundreds of people out there with my artwork tattooed on them. But I've never met anyone in person, that I've never seen it in person. Someone with my pictures tattooed. So he came up to me at a show in 2018 and he was like, I got you tattooed on my arm. And I was like, he was like, do you want to see it? And I was like, I guess. And it wasn't finished at the time. He did it on the inside of his arm. It was the picture for the Sacred Brutality, where I have the horns and all the stuff.
Yeah.
He had it on his arm, and he's an occultist fan. And I was like, I mean, this was at a Doyle show, but he was saying how he became an occultist fan and he loves it, and he had a tattoo not because of the band, but because he loved the image. And I was like, wow, this is insane. And then later he placed an order, and I recognized the name. So I was like, I wrote, I hope your tattoo is healing well. And then he sent me a DM with the note saying, my tattoo is doing wonderful. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all connecting, and we're all people connecting. So like, you don't just like ignore someone. That's mean, So it makes sense to connect with people. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I've seen Tony saying, I'll be buying something, I'd love to have her autograph and note. So expect an order from the Pittsburgh area.
Crystal says they are. I have them all in a safe spot. Oh,
yeah. See,
my heart.
It means so much when it's those little things that you take the time to do. People will recognize that, and they will respond to it. And the fact that someone was interested or moved enough to have your artwork tattooed on their body must have just tripped you out.
Oh, the moment it tripped me out the most was when there was a newspaper in Italy with the picture of the Pope saying, Pope approves religious themed tattoos. And right next to him is a tattoo of my nun self-portrait. Someone got my nun self-portrait tattooed on them, and they used that picture with the Pope on the front paper of a newspaper in Italy to say that he approves religious tattoos. And I'm like, the Pope approves that you get my face tattooed on you. Like, he approves. And I have a screenshot. Someone actually sent it to me, because I have, they don't know who I am. Many times they find these pictures shared on Pinterest or whatever. And someone sent me, I was like, you're on the newspaper in Italy. And I was like, what? And they sent me, I have it. I even posted it. I'll send it to you. I have to send this to you. I have a picture I posted it on the timeline on Facebook, and I was like, and it has a picture of Ryan Ashley, the tattoo artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I'm a super fan of her work. So it's the Pope, her, and I'm right there, and nobody knows that's me. To me, that was the moment I was like, holy shit, this has gone to a different level. Every single day I get tagged in like at least one or new tattoos every single day, and people send them to me, tag me, or many fans recognize me in the tattoos and they write me in the comments. I remember like a couple years ago I said, you know what, I'm going to do a video talking about this because many times it makes me a little uncomfortable. And I said, if I can collect 100 tattoos, I will make the video. And in 15 minutes, I had like 150. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to do this video anymore because they're like, I went, I mean, today, I mean, I've seen well over 500 tattoos with my pictures on them, and especially the non-tattoo. Everybody seems to love those. And it's like overwhelming, and many times they don't know it's me, so it's like they appreciate the artwork and they want to have it on their body, and that's cool. But other times I get messages from, there's this girl who has two of my pictures tattooed on her legs, and she's like, I'm a super fan of yours, I got your face tattooed, I had to get your face tattooed. And she has like two different pictures on both of her legs, and I was like, wow, okay, thank you. What if you get mad at me, like, are you gonna laser them off? But it makes me so happy. And when I saw that that person with the tattoo on his arm, I was like, dude, like this is insane. Like these people have my shit tattooed on them. This is crazy. But yeah, that moment with the cover with the Pope, I'm just like, dude, the Pope says yes, fucking do it. Like,
Yeah, no, if you're on that level and the Pope gives the thumbs up, then you're all good at that point. Holy shit. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. And like you were just saying, having so many, over 500, maybe even more people having your artwork tattooed on your body, um, and that just shows how much your stuff means to them. It's no different than, and you were there when I took the cancer slug mark. Only certain people are going to do that, but when something means that much to you, you're like, it's an honor to have that happen. It's an honor to have artwork of yours on someone's body. It's an honor to have Alex do what he did and then have you film it.
yeah, I was filming it.
and have Big Ed look at me like, I'm not fucking doing that. I have a tattoo on my hand, Alex. That's good. I don't need that.
Oh, I need to show you something. I have right here, and I'm probably not going to find it. I have right here the paper that Ed used to do his tattoo.
Oh,
I kept it. I was like, Ed, can I keep that? And he was like, I don't care. No, he was like, here you go. And oh my god, I picked it. I look at that shit every single day, and now that I want to show you, I don't see it. Oh, it's right here. I'm such a moron. Look, I kept it.
oh,
This
nice.
this is the paper he used, the print he used on his tattoo.
Hmm.
So it's all like, I had it on my wallet and I have it on my book where I write lyrics and stuff. And I look at it every day and I think about you, Ed. Look, every single day. I kept the paper. I like to keep like memories and stuff. And when the dude was done with the tattoo, I was like, can I keep that? And I still have it 2 years later. It's still with me,
That's
and I
awesome.
love that.
That's awesome. I love that you collect mementos of things, just to kind of have that treasure chest of, mementos and memories.
Totally, and it's so special. Little things like that. I mean, I don't know. To me, it means a lot. It's like when you look at it and you remember exactly the moment and exactly where you were at and what it felt like. I like that.
I've done the same thing with when I used to do model photography. So I have certain props, and it might be one was a fish hook, and people see it on my wall and they're like, "What the fuck do you have a fish hook for?" And I'll kind of explain what that abstract photo shoot was about, and then like, "Oh, okay." So I had certain things I just kind of kept because there was something I wanted to remember about that particular shoot. And here, that was God, like 2008 when I did that shoot, and I can see that hook right now. It's still it's still on my wall. So
That's awesome.
I'm the same way. I like those little trinkets along the way of life that I want to kind of always know. So, She sends me pictures of that stencil every few months to say hi.
it's, it's true. Sometimes I'm cleaning up and I forget that I have it over here, and I was like, "Oh, Ed," and then I send it to him, and I'm like, "Look, I found this again." He's like, "Stop sending me pictures of it. I know that you have it." I'm kidding.
That's awesome. And I wanted to kind of ask you too. So when you were here in 2018, was that the first time you spent this much time in America?
Yeah, it was. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, and then everything was so just like perfect that I remember I called home and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna go back. I'm gonna stay." And I remember my family was very upset because they like to spend Christmas together. And sorry, I did that face, but they were kind of upset, and I was like, "But this is my life, and I feel like I should be here, and that I want to do this. I want to be here. I'm really happy, like right here, right now. Like I want to stay." And they were like, "Oh, it's your call," but kind of like resentful at me. They still kind of are kind of resentful that I stayed. But I mean, I've never been happier in my life than that month right there. It was like perfect. Everything was perfect, and I didn't want it to end ever. And I mean, it was the first time. Yeah, I was supposed to stay 2 weeks, ended up staying over a month. And then I went back for another month and another month. And the last time I was there, I was supposed to be for 3 months, and then COVID, and then I came back
Yeah.
2 months later.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was kicked out. Well, I wasn't really kicked out. The airports were shutting down, and my flight. Every time I would book a flight, it would get canceled. And I remember calling the government aid number that they have on the website, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I cannot book a flight back because like they're getting canceled, and I don't feel safe traveling back right now. I would like to prolong my visa so I can stay at least for another 3 months so that I can come back safely." And they were like, "Oh yeah, like no exceptions. You have to leave right now." And I was like, "Yeah, well, it's the pandemic. It's not really my fault. Like I would like to leave right now, but like what if my flight gets canceled again and I get stuck somewhere? Like how do I leave?" And they're like, "You have to leave right now, no exceptions. If you're gonna stay, you're gonna stay against the law." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't want any trouble. That's why, like, the whole reason why I'm calling is because I don't want to stay against the law. It's just like in case I can't come back." But they were super like, "No, no, 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 you have to go, you have to go." And I was like, "Okay." Luckily, everything went well because I kept hearing stories about people being stuck at airports
Mhm.
for their flights being canceled, and I was so scared that I was gonna be like Tom Hanks in Lost in Translation. I was gonna say tourist. I was like, I'm gonna be like Tom Hanks lost in an airport. And the flight I got back was very stressful because it was 4 different airports, and everybody was talking about how quickly this was spreading, and I was like, great. So not only is this spreading super quickly, I have to go by 4 different airports, which is like we have the most in and out spreading of this case. I mean, the airports are always full, people coming from everywhere. So not only is this shit spreading like, fast, I'm gonna have to go through 4 of these different like high potential points. But I came back and I nothing happened. I didn't catch anything. I never catched it at all. I was just terrified, and it felt terrible. Especially the last airport was Newark, and the airport was packed, and people were running around making fun of wearing masks, and they were like having their masks on their hands and being like, "Fuck this shit." And I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die." It was so stupid and so stressful. And then I was able to come back. I had multiple flights canceled. I remember at the time I couldn't even get back because I or get a last ticket because I spent all my money trying to get tickets, and they were all canceled, and the companies would not refund the money immediately, and they were not answering because they had so many people blasting them about flights and stuff
Mhm.
that my only option was to keep on buying tickets. So by the time I needed one last ticket, I had no money, and I had to make a post online like, if you guys would like to donate for me to buy a ticket. And the fans are so humble and generous. So many people donated that day that the day after I was able to buy a ticket. And I made a post saying like, I will be paying back. I'm still honestly recovering financially because I lost so much trying to come back. and I'm still counting pennies to eat food. So if, like, from the moment I start to save up more, the first thing I'm gonna do is to pay back even the people that sent me $1. I don't want to for people to think that I'm ungrateful, and I will be donating everything back as soon as I have the money, because even setting stuff up for pre-order has been crazy, delays and stuff and everything. So as soon as I'm able to, I will be paying every single penny back. It's just insane. And the first few months, I had no jobs booked. I only started working a couple months ago again, because everybody was scared to spend money on shootings and
Mhm.
new collections because nobody's buying anything. People lost their jobs, lost their houses. Nobody wants to spend money, so it was really, really complicated. But I made it back thanks to the fans, and nothing happened. And I mean, it was just super overwhelming to drop everything and come back, and without planning to, it was just like, I guess I'm leaving tomorrow. Like, some people are used to doing that, not me. I'm terrified of airports. I have super anxiety and panic attacks. So to me, I need a month to mentally prepare to go into an airport. And I had to leave to an airport the next day that was probably infected. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna die. It's like, I don't want to do this. It felt terrible. And but I made it. I'm a pro now. I'm not scared of airports as much anymore. So I guess that's the positive outcome of that, is that I'm used to airports now.
Wow, and I think anyone with a conscience will understand this pandemic that we're in. That for artists like yourself, you're doing what you can right now, and your intention is there. That's the key thing: is that your intention is to, let's say, for example, pay the fans back that helped you, get that last ticket booked. They understand that, yeah, there's a residual effect everywhere. You can talk about concerts. It's not just the band, it's the promoters, it's the clubs, it's the drivers, it's the security, it's the merch people, it's everybody. It just trickles down everywhere. So when we're in this situation now, and here at least in the U.S., it's it's not looking good right now. It's getting worse. I don't know what it's like over in Portugal. Are you guys kind of holding steady in terms of COVID and all that?
Like, for a few months ago, it felt like it was going down and everything was kind of like controlled, and places were opening back up again. But recently everything went back to being worse, and a few weeks ago they were saying that we had one of the worst days ever since this started back in February or March. So it was bad, and then it was slowly going good, and airports were opening and stuff, and then it just dropped again, like recently, like these past couple weeks. So I see the US gradually getting worse and worse and worse. And over here we were doing good, and then it went back to being down, but it's nothing compared to what you guys are experiencing.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, it's interesting because I just heard something, I think it was 2 days ago, about the same thing, that they had a statistic here in Seattle, at least, that, yeah, we had the record number of cases for the entire time from, yeah, from the beginning of this pandemic to now. And it's like, I knew it was getting worse. I didn't know it was getting that much worse. And I'm not going to debate with people about, the numbers being right or wrong, all that kind of crap. But it's just like, if you just look at that, it's like, yeah, I guess we're going to be in this position a lot longer than we thought. Because initially it was supposed to be like a sprint, and then it turned into a marathon, then it turned into an ultra marathon, then it became just a fucking question mark of like, I don't know. And I've talked to many bands and many artists about some of the things for early next year are already canceled. They already know, like, winter's not going to happen. Maybe late spring, maybe summer, but even then they still don't know for sure.
And I mean, I just saw Ozzy Osbourne postpone the tour with Judas Priest for 2022.
Hmm.
And you see tours and festivals that are booked for 2021, and I'm here wondering, it might not happen again.
Hmm.
I don't think, I mean, people are taking measurements and they're doing the shows with the safety booths,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
I don't, that's really pretty, but I don't know if it keeps on getting worse. I mean, it's gonna have to end at some point, but it just keeps on getting worse and worse, and people keep thinking that this is some fucking joke, that the things are not really happening, that it's not as bad as people say it is. Like, it is bad, and it is happening, and it is real, and people are playing with it. They think it's not real, and it's only going to make things worse for everybody. So as much as we fight ourselves to, like, ever since I came back in March, I think I left the house like 10 times, and I don't see friends, I don't go to bars or restaurants, I don't go out. I go out to get groceries. I went out to get groceries. I went out to the Black Lives Matter protests, and I went out to get tattooed. I went out to get tattooed, but it was my friend's shop, and their rents were not lifted, and they were like saying how they're feeling kind of like tied up.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna book something to help you guys out, and that's it. And I haven't, like, I don't go there to like show the tattoos, or I don't go meet friends up, or but I mean, I'm over here as like many other people are doing this effort for them to some jerk off go out and do a party for like 50 people, and everybody gets contaminated, and then the numbers double. Like, okay, thanks very much for shitting on me like that, and all the other people that are doing this kind of effort. So it's very frustrating to have to deal with all this dumbass people that don't give a shit.
Yeah, I know. For me, at least, I think this is such a unique time because when, if you're choosing to do what you should be doing, which you and I agree with, if it's masking up and socially distancing and all that kind of thing, it's an interesting time because as soon as you go outside, you can see someone who's completely not doing that, so you automatically know where they stand. And it's a lot of times you don't know what someone's thinking, what their belief system is. But in this case, you automatically know if you go into the grocery store and you see 80% of the people masked up, but then you see 5 people try to walk in that aren't, and then the employees are saying, "Hey, here's a free mask." That's what they would do over here, at least in Seattle. And if someone says, "No, I don't want it. It's my right not to wear one," then it becomes this whole other thing. It's like, holy shit.
It's so stupid. Over here, it's mandatory to wear it. Like, you'll get a fine if you don't wear a mask. Or
Mm,
I'm I know they implemented that, and I think it still is mandatory. Like, if you don't wear it, you will get a fine. I think it is still, because they don't let you in if you don't have a mask on grocery stores and stuff. They don't let you get in. But I remember the first few times I went to get groceries and I was all masked up and it wasn't mandatory yet.
mhm.
People would make fun of you. They would like I remember I was at the line, and this dude behind me in the line bumped his cart onto my legs, and I was like, really? Everybody talking about social distancing, you have to bump into me? And then I remember I used the basket, and I put the basket between me and the cart, and he was like, oh, she's just like so exaggerated. And I was like, what are you talking about being exaggerated? Like, you got all this like people dying with this crap, and you over here calling me exaggerated. So this is going to make things last way longer than it should be. Like, maybe if everyone was behaving, then maybe by the end of this year it would have been like much better. But it's like, I don't I I'm really sorry. As much as I want this to be over, I don't think it's going to be over anytime soon.
That's the unfortunate reality. And you're right. It's because people can't seem to find just common decency to just do this. We can all get past it. We can kind of go back to things that we love and miss. But because, at least again, I'm just speaking for here in Seattle, that there's such a divide. There's a massive divide of this is what I'm going to do. And it also starts, and I'm not going to get into politics and all that stuff because that's not what I don't do that here. But it just becomes something like, it's not like someone's asking you to give up half of your livelihood. It's not like they're saying, you need to move from your home to, living under a bridge or something like that. It's putting on a fucking mask and staying 6 feet apart from me. You can't do that. And when you go back to your home or your property, you can do whatever the fuck you want at that point, as long as you're being smart about it. But when you're out amongst other people, think beyond yourself. That's all you have to do. But clearly, some people can't do that, and they choose not to. It's totally a choice.
They turn this into something political when it's not. It's just a matter of respect for others and a matter of respect for our industry and community. But they don't care. They're just a piece of shit. Sorry, but it's true. Like, you're just being a selfish piece of shit, really.
Yep. And that's why it becomes that. So, do you want to see concerts come back? Do you want to see, photo shoots come back? Well, here's what you can do, and that'll allow this to come back. Oh, you don't want to do that? Well, then you're basically just like you said earlier. You're shitting on what I try to do for a livelihood.
Exactly.
It's insane. It's insane. But hey, Beatrice, I want to ask you. Gosh, it's been an hour and a half.
Wow. I'm
That's
gonna
awesome.
beat the soap girls. I'm kidding.
Oh man. So with like you said earlier in the interview, you've been feeling good about things. And you've been doing your tutorials. You've got personal projects with your horror stuff and your own solo stuff, and you mentioned obviously that you have Doug Bradley tattooed on your arm. You have other ink, and you did one session locally during the pandemic. Have you ever thought about being a tattoo artist?
Yes, I have. I started learning in uni. I have a kit right there. Like I
No.
can see it. It's all put together. But I had to prioritize things because I feel like getting into tattoo is like a commitment, because it's almost like driving. If you don't do it for a while, then you kind of they're like, well, I guess driving is not really a good analogy, but you have to, for example, it's so hard for me to get a steady hand to tattoo. And I feel like that needs practice. You don't want to put like a shitty line on someone.
Right.
So if I don't take this time, this long period of time to be good at it, then I'm just gonna forget. Like I don't remember how the fuck did I put my machine together. It's been a few years, and I was tattooing on fake skin and stuff. And God, I would love to. I love to do illustrations. I do them all the time, but it's like I need time to devote myself to the machine, and I don't have the time. I've tried it. I love it, and I know that if I put the effort and time into it, that I would do something with it. But I had to choose like what to do. Like if there's a period in my life where I feel bored with stuff, I know that definitely I'll get into learning how to tattoo correctly. But right now it's I don't have the time to learn.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, and as anyone knows who follows your work, yeah, and you just mentioned it during this interview, the umpteen things that you're involved with. So it makes sense that maybe down the road there'll be a time where it kind of makes sense to maybe pivot from things that you've been doing to something like that. And something that's also just kind of bopped into my brain right now is that with your art background and your illustration background, have you done what's like the largest piece you've done? Have you ever done something like a mural, like on the side of a building or something?
No, I would always do uh I love to do stuff with how do you say? It's like ink pens. Like I'm not sure if this is the book. I have a million books that I'm always constantly drawing on,
Hmm.
and stuff like this.
Okay.
Like I love that kind of lining stuff, and that's what I do the most. But big pieces, I think only canvases. I've done big canvases. Wait, you guys think in inches? Oh my god. I don't know. Something like uh uh I don't fuck, something like 70 centimeters over 70 centimeters, kind of big. Uh, stuff that's almost as tall as me.
Okay. All right.
But never murals. No, never murals. But acrylics, yes, like large canvases. I have.
And have you or do you accept commissions? So if someone wants you to to paint or draw something for them to display in their home.
I used to back in high school. Right now, for example, I feel like if someone asked me for a commission, it would take me like months to do it, and the
Mm.
person would be on waiting forever, and that would make me feel terrible. What I'm working on though is I do prints of my work, but I've been
Mhm.
doing working on specific images to sell as fine art prints, like large sized prints for people to have. And I don't want this to be something basic. Like, for example, many people like to order the prints that just have my face on it because, like, either I don't know, they like the picture, or many are fans that they want to have my face on a wall. But I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be a complex composition for a large dimensioned print, so it takes time too, because if it's going to be printed in a large scale, then I need to pay attention to really small details because it's going to be printed really large. So
Right.
this has been taking me time to do the schematics and find the decent place that I want to print at. And if I'm going to do something like I want to incorporate like golden leaf into the print, so this is a very complex process to make sure that everything has to be perfect, because with me is all or nothing. It either is completely absolutely immaculate and perfect to the detail, or I don't do it at all. Like if it's gonna be like just okay, I would rather not do it. Either put out something that is perfect to me and that I would buy, or I don't put it out at all. So this is why this is taking me longer than a regular print, just because I need to make sure that everything that I'm looking at has to be perfect. And many times what that implies is for me to take a break from those specific artworks because I stare at them for so long I stop seeing things. So it's like, okay, this week I need to take a break from looking at it. I write down everything that I need to look at and that I need to remember, and then a week later I will go back and be like, oh, and I also missed this and that and that and that, just because I was staring at it for so long. But that's why it takes me a little longer, also because I have to find time in between. I'm kind of Halloween, I'm kind of overbooked with shootings, and I'm dealing with the band and my solo stuff and the short movie and doing Patreon and teaching classes online. So it's a bit of overwhelming with the amount of things that I'm doing right now. And at the end of the day, I still need to take time to work on my concept arts, which I have not been having time at all. So hopefully this thing will be out by November. This piece will be out by November, and then sell a limited numbered edition of those, and then see how that goes from there, if I do more in the future or not.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. And yeah, I know you're right about when you're going to do something on that scale, that like every little detail's got to be right, because you're gonna when it gets to that size, you're gonna see it, and everyone's gonna think, what happened there? What happened there?
Yeah.
And you'll be your own worst critic as soon as you see like a test print come back. You're like, oh shit, what happened here? I better go back and fix that because I can't sell this to people. Um, but yeah, for some reason I'm picturing some of your work like on the side of like I don't know, like a record store or something like that at some point down the road. Clearly not right now, but just I think seeing a large scale like that would be fucking amazing.
I think the weirdest thing I found was a tattoo shop printed my picture on their door.
Hmm.
But they didn't know it was me, but a fan spotted the door and they sent me a picture. I was like, "Hey, this store has your face on their door." And I'm like, "What the fuck? That is weird as shit." And I remember it was a commissioned shooting for between Necromancy Cosmetica and this jewelry company from I don't remember where they're from. And I remember like the very specific image where I'm wearing a blonde wig and green lipstick, and I have a really particularly uh big septum piercing. And they were like, "We do piercings," and then they blast my picture on the door, and I was like, "That is not correct." So if that happens, it has to be properly done. Something like that, it makes me very bothered. Like, you didn't even try to look up who that is, because if every work that I do, there's a thing on Google where you do reverse image search, where you
Yeah.
upload the picture and you find them
Hmm.
by it, the search engine shows it by date, by the first time it was posted, which is always me. So the first link will always lead you up to the original post. So I was like, that it takes you like 30 seconds for you to look up who this person is. Sometimes even tattoo artists do that. They use my pictures and they go like, "Oh, here's my design. Like, does anybody want to get this tattooed?" And I'm like, "That's not your design. You screenshotted my picture and you put it on someone's arm." And it's funny because sometimes, I try to blend my watermark in the pictures.
Hmm.
Sometimes they miss the watermark and the watermark is with the tattoo. And I'm like, "There's like, you dumbass. Look at my name right there. You're gonna get my name tattooed too with the watermark? Oh my god." So I mean, it has to be something properly done. So
Oh, that's too funny. That's what you get then for doing it.
yeah.
not doing it the proper way and getting some credit. And I know that, and you know this too, just from the, like you're talking about with watermarks and the digital age of photography and everything, that people go on the internet and they just think it's somehow it's free and I can just do whatever I want with it. It's like, no, you can't.
Crazy.
We had this thing. I interviewed a local photographer who was great, and he had done a shot from U2 when they were here, like I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and somehow that beautiful image got down to South America, and it was being used down there without his permission, without any kind of release or anything. But it still got back to him. It got back to us around here, so we were all putting them on blast basically about, hey, you took off his watermark, you didn't give him any kind of credit, all that kind of. Eventually, they credited who he was in their magazine, but that was it. There's no payment. There's nothing. They just swiped it, and it happens every day, every day because of the way the internet is and people's mentalities that, oh, it's just available, so I can use it whenever I want. So like, fuck no.
No, the worst thing I had happen was when I was shooting for modeling agencies. I would take pictures of models, and I was like, I mean, I think I was at home, whatever, fucking off, and then I got a message from a friend that goes like, "Hey, congratulations, your work is on Vogue," and I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, your picture. I recognize it. It's from that shooting you did." Of a model, not of me, of like someone else, but I like, this is your picture, like I saw it and it's printed on the magazine, and I was like, why is my work printed on Vogue? Why did nobody ask me? Why is my watermark deleted? What is happening? And I remember I found out the headquarter number, and I was like, hi, I saw that you like posted my picture, and where's my name on it? Like, how did you find this? And then they were like, oh, the agency gave us the picture. And then I spoke to the agency, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't even know that your picture was printed on there." And I was like, every time I would go to one, they would send me to the other, and it was always like this. And I ended up giving up because, like, what am I gonna do? Lawyer up against Vogue? That's not gonna happen. And I have the magazine. I bought it, and I made a post about it, saying like, "Thank you, Vogue, for stealing my work and like not putting my watermark on it." And then the next edition, they made on the bottom of the very last page, they make a correction, and it
Hmm.
was like this small in the very last page of their next edition. I was like, that's what I get. Thank you. Awesome. So lame. So but it was fun to see that people recognized my work, and everybody was like, um hey, I know that this is your picture, and then everybody stood up for me, and it was nice to see.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, yeah, with your fan base and your friends and just just other personal contacts around the world, that if they happen to see something online, that they can say, wait a minute, again, and you have such a distinctive style of what you do, let alone if they see a watermark or a
Oh
name
my
on
god.
it, that they can let you know immediately about, I just saw this, I just saw this, I saw this, and so like then you start thinking, at least for me, I start thinking, well, what else is out there that I'm not catching, and my friends and family or whatever are still missing too? Because there's got to be some stuff that maybe it's on a. It's ridiculous that something as large as Vogue would do something like that.
Our local Vogue. Yeah, it was very upsetting at me at the for me at the time. Eh, there are some things that I'm not allowed to talk about the subject, but it was not a very it was not a very nice approach, I don't think. Um I don't like the way it was handled, so I lost my respect for that magazine that day and the way
Hmm.
they handled my work. And I was like, I don't care how you got us, if it was from the magazine or the model or the agency. It's like I don't understand how you got to my work, and I don't care. The way you handled it was poorly done. So from that day on, I was like, I don't care. I don't care about you guys. It's like I don't want to work with people who will disrespect me like that. So
Yeah, no, and rightfully so. You move on from people like that because there's too many good people out there to work with, that won't do things like that. So, and that actually kind of brings me around to not the photography side of things, but I'm just curious about with when you joined Ockultist, that where did you develop your vocal style? Like, were you listening to like a bunch of death metal bands, growing up, kind of a thing, and that's how it kind of formulated where your voice was going to go, or how did you develop? Because it seems like it started one way and it kind of keeps adding to it as the band progresses.
it really started like that. I've always been a super fan of death metal and black metal, and bands that have stuck with me ever since my early teens all the way till now are bands like Death, Possessed, Deicide, Morbid Angel, especially Morbid Angel. And I don't know how it was like. I remember this was in high school. I started learning by the end of high school, I think. No, no, in uni. Like I started learning by myself. I didn't tell anybody, because I had no idea what I was doing, and I could only do it if I was driving at the time. It's like I was driving, I was screaming, and I was like, "Oh, I get it, what I'm supposed to do." But like every time I would get out of the car and go like in my room and try to do something, I was like, "Why can't I do this right now? Why can't I do this while I'm driving?" It's like insane. So I didn't tell anybody what I was doing and what I was learning. And then at the time, I told our guitarist Leander, I said, "I want to do a death metal band." And he was like, "Okay." And I was like, "I can't sing." And he goes, "Okay." And then I start singing. And he was like, "Where'd you learn how to sing?" And I'm like, "Well, I just did." And then we started the band together. And then we called our friend Moises, who is in the UK now. Uh, and we immediately started doing stuff. But I remember being in my seventh, eighth grade and listening to these bands and thinking like, "Wow, this is brutal." And then right after, I found Angela Gosso, and I was like, "Wait a minute, she's a woman and she's doing this. I can do this too." like. And
Yeah.
then it was Angela, and it was Anilar from Dark Nocturne Slur Cold, and it was Dana Duffy from Mythic and Demonic Christ. Demonic Christ and Dark and Nocturne Slur Cult are two of my favorite bands, and I love them both. I love Dracena as well. Like when I bought their CD, I wrote like, "Can Mia sign my CD?" And she did, and it was awesome. And these are all like references. Sometimes it's like, I guess uh people don't like to put that much effort into looking bands with women singing. So every time I would get off a show, everybody would say, "You sound like Angela." And I'm like, "No, I don't." What are you talking about? Like, if anything, I'm closer to Dana Duffy than to any other, just because she's my major reference. But of course, I don't want to sound like her. I want to sound like me.
Sure.
But yeah, and like Chuck Schuldiner for me is like like, how do you say, like a catalyst almost, because his style is just, it's just incredible. Like there's not a single song or album that I don't listen to from Death. And I mean, I'm wearing the shirt. It's one of my favorite bands. And recently, I made a cover of Scavenger of Human Sorrow, and it felt so good to sing it. And just his style and his voice is incredible to me. And so I turned to Leander and said, "I want to do this." And then we got the rest of the guys and we started doing it. And our idea, firstly, was like, let's just do this for fun and for like to jam, because like, fuck it, we just want to play music. And then people started to like it. And we were like, okay, so I guess we have to put a CD out. And then we did our EPI of the Beholder, and it got quite some attention. And we were like, do people really like this? And we were like super like, "Oh my god, okay, people are enjoying us." And then the shows were great. And we just kept on going. And then I was talking to Fernando from Moonspell about this other collaboration. And then it was like, "Hey, if you want to listen, like I'm in this project, if you want to like give it a try." And he was like, "You know what, we're actually trying to put out other bands other than ours on our like label, and we would like to pick you guys up." And I was like, "But oh, okay." And then Reinventing Evil happened, and from all of a sudden it's like this, I don't want to say global, but almost global uh attention kind of thing. It's not a super like, I'm not saying that we're super like popular or super anything, but to have received messages personally, I have from people all around the world saying they're occultist fans. I'm like, I mean, we have a fan club in China, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? Do people really like us? And I mean, it's insane. It's insane to me that it kind of I can understand that we sparked kind of some jealousy on some other on some other bands that have been around for way longer, because we are 3 years old. We are babies. It's like, and it got quite some attention. And it's, I mean, Revolver posted about us and all. And I was like, okay, So this is happening. I don't know how to deal with this. So yeah.
Well, that's it kind of, when I'm thinking back to everything you've said during this interview, it kind of goes in line with like you weren't looking for what happened. It just happened organically, naturally, and so you're just really appreciative of the fact, and it just blows your mind that this wasn't the intention, but wow, I guess we're going on this ride now.
Exactly. It was not planned at all. It started with a group of friends that just wanted to jam. And then, like, here we are, like, on a label with an album out. People keep, like, there's like a demand for it. People keep asking for vinyl. People keep asking for tours. And we're like, okay, so I guess we got to do this now. It's like, but no, we love it and we love the whole entire process. And Moonspell have been so kind to us because they landed their studio. I mean, we slept in their studio during the recordings, and Pedro, who is their keyboard player, he sat with us the entire time. He would not go home. He was super just like on it the whole time, helping us build the songs and made them sound good. I mean, I like our songs a lot and I think they sounded good. They were really messy because we were like, you know what? Fuck tempos, fuck structures. Let's just have a song that never sounds like the same from start to finish. And he was like, this sounds bad. He's like, he was like, he was like, okay, we're gonna fix this up a little. And we're like, okay, we kind of like that it sounded crazy, but okay, cool. And he helped us understand how it goes to structure and record songs, and everything came out super nice and we love it, and it was such a fulfilling experience. It was really hard work from everybody, not just us, but from the label and the Poison Apple Studios, who were so patient with us as well to record because there were so many technical complications and stuff. Stuff that always happens,
Mhm.
and but everything was on time and perfect.
That's wonderful, and yeah, I'm just kind of curious for I think a lot of people, at least here in America, we're not really up maybe on what is the scene like in Portugal right now. Well, not now during the pandemic, but pre-pandemic, like last year, let's say. What's the music scene like over there?
Um, I Portugal is really small. Portugal is, I think, it's smaller than the state of Alabama. Uh, land wise,
Okay.
I think I googled that once. So as you can understand, the community is also very small, and we end up everybody knows everybody. I mean, I think almost the entire country knows everybody. We're all like, it's such a small country, and of course, everywhere the metal community is also small because I mean, it's not the most popular genre of music.
Mm.
So ends up everybody knows everybody, and we end up going to each other's shows, whether you are death or black metal or trash or punk. Everybody ends up seeing everybody. Everybody blends in together. So there's not a particularly style, I don't think, that is super popular. That you have a little bit of everything, and everybody ends up going to everybody's shows. It's always like party and um, bands just want to play, and there are not that many clubs. So everybody ends up going to the same places to see the same bands play. And yeah, it's kind of like this, just really small, and everybody ends up going everywhere. I mean, we've played with bands that were not really our style, and there was not a problem because we all know each other's. It ends up being more like that, other than, oh, it doesn't make sense for us to play with a band that plays this style and that. We just end up everybody playing with everybody.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there's a musical community then there, regardless of the style. Then.
Yeah, or at least I feel like I'm not really a person to go out. I'm very much of a loner. I like to stay in and like enjoy my peace and quiet. I also have I know people don't it's people have a hard time believing this, but some of us on stage deal with stuff like social anxiety, and just because we do shows does not mean that we still don't struggle with that. So I always have a hard time being in large groups of people, and it makes me very just uncomfortable. Not because of the people, but the being out in a large group of people makes me uncomfortable. But it's not nothing directly at the people around me.
Mhm.
It's just the way I am. So I end up not even sometimes if there's a band that I really want to see play, just end up not going just because to me the experience of being in a large group of people stresses me out. So, but the shows that I've gone to, I've been to most of bands here shows. I think I don't want to say. I mean, at least the ones that play in Lisbon.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes I go to shows and people don't even see me there, and I'm just like, yeah, I went there and I watched the show and then I left and I didn't talk to nobody. It's like, but because it's such a small country, everything ends up being super small. I mean, for example, our very first show we opened with a band called 11th Dimension, and they do a more of a I don't want to say symphonic style, but more melodic, and it's different than ours, very different than ours, and we played together, and I mean, it made sense because we knew each other's, and even though we have very different styles, I remember we were booking this and we're like, should we like look for another death metal band or like do we just book a band for someone we're friends with? And we booked with them. They're amazing people. It's also Diana is the front woman and we're super friends and I love her. She's super talented model and singer. I've taken pictures of her as well. So it made sense. It made total sense to open with them and it was so much fun. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, and again, at least here in Seattle, we've got all genres of music, and there is that thing where if it's there's like a running, I don't know, like a line or a lineage with you can be different styles of music, but in terms of how you are as people, or if you know each other, and I think the fans kind of pick up on that. So yeah, you could be different styles of metal in this case, and it'll still work. So
Completely. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, and I'm also thinking like when you're mentioning, for some folks that being on stage, is not the most comfortable thing for them, depending on the day and the anxiety they have and other issues that they wrestle with. I played in a duo around here, and I'm not going to say all the little details, but yeah, my singer, it was not easy for her to get in front of people some days, and but I knew what was going on, but they didn't know. They'd be like, "Hey, Mark, where's so and so," and I'd be like, well, yeah, she's kind of taking a break right now, but we're going to start at 7, so go grab a beer or whatever, and we're looking forward to seeing you, and thanks for coming, that kind of stuff, and because it wasn't my place to divulge anything, and I'm still not saying it now because that was years ago, but yeah, it's like you don't. They just feel that if you're on a stage presenting yourself, then you must be a very forward type of person, and you want to get out there and not touch and meet everybody. It's like not necessarily.
No, no, don't touch me. No. No. It's like and many times I had that same issue. Like we would play shows and then I would leave because I can't. Yeah, I have days I can't deal with people, and it's not
Mhm.
a personally. It's not a personal attack. It's not like I don't personally like someone. Sometimes I don't have the strength to deal with people. I put all the strength into doing a show, and into doing a good show, and then and that's all I can do that day. It's like I can't take anymore, and people's many times don't seem to want to understand that and it happens to with big names as well. It's not just us small bands, like we're all human. Everybody has their struggles. So
Mhm.
people just assume that just because we're on stage, we're just like super outgoing, extroverted people. Like, no, I'm an introvert disguised as an extrovert. I don't. Always have ever since I was a kid a problem, especially around strangers. It's like it's so hard and people want to talk to you and they want to like take pictures and I'm like okay we can do all that like it's fine but in my head I'm exploding actually had a comment recently someone said oh I met you at one at the Doyle meet and greets and you were super quiet and I was like well yes I struggle a lot with like social anxiety and I was super anxious that day probably and I couldn't talk like I freeze when I'm anxious and they're like oh because I wish I had spoken to you and I wish you had said so and so and you didn't seem nervous you were super put together and I was like just because I'm put together doesn't mean my brain is not exploding. The fact that I look super put together and super quiet should be a red flag that I'm going through something in my head, because I freeze completely when I'm anxious. I can't walk or move or breathe. Sometimes I have to be like, okay, you're not breathing. He's like, calm down. But people don't seem to understand, and they're like, I wish you had said something. And I was like, no, it's like I can't. Like I couldn't. I was not in the right mental space to talk. And that's why I didn't. So don't expect for me to do A, B, and C, because, I'm a person.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. And hopefully, people out there that watching this now and watching it later online will start to understand that, not just for yourself, but other musicians or artists that they look up to. That when you come across somebody, you have to give them some grace, really, and some understanding that. And so in this case, if you see Beatrice and she's being quiet, and it doesn't matter how she looks, maybe she's got a really great outfit on and her makeup's done, that she might be thinking, yeah, this is one of those days, or this is one of those moments. Even it's like it's nothing personal, please understand that. But I'm just trying to keep myself together right now, and I've seen that from other sides too, where just for me being an interviewer, someone just traveled 500 miles between shows, and so they're dog tired. They haven't had a shower in a few days. They don't have any food, or there's or there's or there's
Sorry.
crappy food for them to eat. The venue just fucked them over in the last one, or whatever it is. So when they get there, they may not be in the best of moods. So you just have to understand that. And so if they say, Mark, your interview can only be 10 minutes, no problem. You just work with what's given to you. But some people, they don't look at it that way. It's like, well, it's all about me, and this is what was designed. I'm supposed to be here for 20 minutes, and blah blah blah. I'm supposed to talk to this person. Why do I have that person? It's like, dude, you need to relax and just give them their space. Be happy and grateful that you get to do anything in terms of, let's say, in an interview situation, and just kind of move on from there. You are making impressions, and right now you're making the wrong one.
Yeah, and it's sometimes I just wish everybody would be like that, and they would understand that we're people with needs and limits. And I remember someone once told Alex that he didn't give them a good enough handshake, and I was like, you touched the person even, which is something that I can't. Sometimes I hug people if like I'm like I've had encounters. It was not at a, for example, one on the Doyle tours, but here, this girl that came up to me and she was just crying, and I was like, okay, let me hug you, because like I'm gonna cry too. I'm like super empathic, so like if I see you cry, I'm gonna cry. So it's like, and it's up to us what we are feeling that day. And it is so disrespectful. Like, I'm so sorry to say this, but it is. When someone said that he didn't give them a good enough of a handshake, I was like, seriously? You met up with the person, like, with your fan, you spent a moment with them, and they still complain about the handshake? That's not right. That's like, come on, don't do that. Like, what the hell? I've
That,
never, for example, denied taking a picture with someone or signing something, but I've had so many moments where I was just not in the mood to do it and not in the right headspace or anything, and I still did it for the sake of the person's happiness.
mhm.
And so at least be grateful for that. It's like, God, come on.
I hadn't heard that story about the handshake with Alex thing. Because I think the first time when Cancer Sled came to town, I saw him, so I just yelled out "Wolfman" to him, and he just kind of waved to me, and he was running somewhere. I don't know where he was going somewhere, but it wasn't like I didn't look at him like, well, fuck, what's that about? And how come he didn't stop to come talk to me, kind of a thing. It's like, no, he's doing whatever he's doing. He's gonna be on stage in an hour or whatever,
Yeah.
and then I ended up talking to him afterward. And even then, if he needed to, get in the van and get down to Portland or something for the next show, you have to understand those things. This is a business, and like you just said, they're people, and you just never know what's going on. And sometimes they're ready to go and want to mix it up with you, and sometimes they don't want to be fucking bothered. So
Yeah. It's just like that person was saying, like, oh, you didn't speak. You should have said this and that. I was like, no, I shouldn't. I was not having a good day. I shouldn't have, like, I don't have to do stuff for you. It's like, Jesus Christ, give me a break. I was already there and struggling with it, but I was making the effort, the mental effort of being there.
Mhm.
And you're still complaining that I didn't talk. Like, come on. Like, we're people. Sometimes it's like when you hear these things about, I don't know, like some singer or whatever, like, oh, they're so like mean or whatever. And I was like, you don't know that. Maybe they were having a bad day and you met them on a bad day. Like, come on.
Mhm.
Like, don't judge people like that. It's like, no.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, being on the media side of things, I've had a chance to meet all kinds of wonderful artists and meet all kinds of people. And the only time where I would say that someone is a certain way is if I've, met them repeatedly and the same behavior keeps coming up, because then it becomes more than a coincidence that, let's say, they always seem to be quiet. Well, no, that's just them. That's how they are. I've interviewed them 3 times or whatever. They're a quiet kind of person. That's their personality. Um, and knock on wood, I haven't met anybody that was off-putting to me at all. They've been pleasant, great, funny, just everything you can think of under the sun. And again, like we were just talking right now for the last 10 minutes or so, grace and courtesy goes a long way from my end of things when I approach somebody on a tour bus or in a green room or whatever, or at a merch table. It's like, yeah, just be polite, respectful. Don't be entitled. I think that's a huge issue with fans right now. And just, hopefully you get your moment. And if you don't, maybe next time, whatever. And just kind of be happy that you got to see your favorite band just, kill it on stage, maybe, 5 minutes ago, kind of a thing. But it never seems to be enough for some people. Some fans do understand it, but there's a lot more that need to kind of get on board.
Yeah, we're talking about the specific people that have this sort of behavior because uh this has only happened to me like a singular time or two. Every single person I've dealt with, fans and stuff, they're super nice and they're super respectful, and I love them so much. Like this girl that I was talking about, Jade, that gave me the drawing.
Mhm.
She came up to me and she was so respectful, and she was like, "Hey, I know that you're working. I know that you're busy. Do you mind if I show you something that I made for you?" She was super polite and she was super, because at the end of the day, we were strangers at the time. Now we became friends after that, but at the time, of course, it's a stranger walking up to me, talking to me about themselves and stuff. So of course, like it has to be this respect talking to a stranger. Yeah, like it doesn't matter who they are. So but luckily it only happened like once or twice that people were being kind of insensitive like that. We're here only talking about those cases. We're not saying that everybody out there. That's not true. Like we're still lucky to deal with such amazing and loving and caring fans. It really feels like a really tight group, and we are so thankful for it. Either I'm talking about either my the people who I share my artworks with or the fans of Ockultist. Everybody is so nice to us. So like they really care about us, and that's so good to see and so amazing to see. And actually I feel like during this pandemic it starts to show more
Mm.
the humble side of people. Or or at least I've been dealing a lot with that, especially for example with orders, making prints and stuff, and the shop got super delayed because then the manufacturer got their stuff delayed, and then they were left with the backlog of stuff, and I ended up waiting a couple months for 2 orders of prints, and I kept talking to the people and being like, hey, I can't do anything. They can't print, and they have my order. I just gotta wait. And everybody was like, no, like I totally understand. Like it's so during this pandemic, I feel like it has shown a lot the humane and humble side of people. Luckily, also not, but mostly the humble and nice side of people. Sometimes you have those exceptions to the rule, which where they show you they're quite the opposite. But that's just the trash taking itself out. So
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And I know just from a fan side that I can't remember what month it was. It was probably back like in maybe May or June. I ordered an album from Germany, and the pandemic's going on, and everything shut down. And Germany for the longest time would not ship anything to the United States. I think that just finally opened up like at the end of September or something. So I knew it was going to come. I've ordered from this company before, and sure enough, I got an email the other day saying, the status order changed to shipped. So I know it's going to eventually get over here, maybe like in a month or something. But I wasn't sitting there like trying to send a bunch of emails, say, "Where's my order? How come you're not shipping my album?" It's like, no, just it's going to get there when it gets there. Just trust that fact. And you're right. I'm seeing a lot of people that are that just kind of know, because even on their own personal level, wherever they live in the world, they're dealing with COVID on some level. So they have to understand it's a global thing. So yeah, I would love to get this album to you in 2 weeks, but it's not going to happen. So just kind of have some patience.
Yeah, exactly. But luckily, we've been dealing with very, very nice people.
Awesome. Well, Beatrice, I've got a couple questions I wanted to ask just for fun to kind of wrap this up. And it's been amazing talking with you. I have a feeling that maybe we'll end up doing like a part two of this down the road if you feel like it. Uh,
Yes, I'm totally up for it. I would love
okay,
to. It's fun.
cool. Um, so, because we've talked about horror stuff, which I know you love and appreciate, and it is October and all that kind of thing, I wanted to kind of ask you some questions related to horror films. And they're not trivial things. They're just kind of what would you do? So, just for fun. Um,
Okay.
if you got trapped
Oh shit.
in one scary movie, which one would you choose?
I want to be with that puzzle box. You know, I want to be in Hellraiser. You know, I want to meet Doug Bradley. Like, come on. I'm gonna open the box, and I don't care if it's pain or pleasure. I want it. I want that box.
Oh, so that lament configuration is going to be yours, huh?
Yeah. I don't care when it comes. I don't care if I'm gonna be all stuck on hooks and shit. Like, come on, give me the box.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense that you would pick that. So I should have known that from the top. Let's go to this next one. If you were dared to spend the night in a notoriously known haunted house, would you?
Of course I would. Like, I actually had this every time I do a live stream on my page, there's always someone who's like, "Have you ever had like paranormal activity experiences?" I'm like, "No, I have not, and I would love to." So, if there was an opportunity to go to a haunted house and spend the night there, yes, please. Like, where do I sign up? I want to go. I've always wanted to like see a ghost or something, and that has never happened to me in my life. And all these people have these crazy ghost stories that they've seen a person and stuff. I'm like, why does that shit never happen to me? Where are they? So I have this theory how uh, these entities or spirits or whatever, they don't like to be bothered. They like to be on their own. So it's like if you are scared, they will scare the shit out of you, so you don't look for ghosts ever again. But if you want to look for them, they will not show up to you, so that they make you think they don't exist. So I guess it's like, okay, they don't want me to know that they're out there because I want to meet one so bad. I'd be like, hey, can we take a picture? It's like, so yes, I would totally spend the night in a haunted house.
So I guess you have to pretend to act scared. Then like there's the idea that the ghost is coming, so then maybe they actually would show up and then scare you. It's like, I actually fooled
Yeah,
you.
yeah, totally.
Okay, let's see. Here's another one. If you could, well, I think I kind of know the answer to this, but maybe not. If you could become any horror monster or villain for a day, who would you choose?
I'll be a vampire.
Okay.
I want to be a vampire. I want to turn into a bat. I want to be immortal. And oh god, vampire. Um, I've had this question asked a lot actually. If I could be like one mythical character, what would I be? I would totally be a vampire. I love that shit. I want to sleep in a coffin and shit. Like I want all of it. The whole experience, the whole like the whole vampire experience. I want it. And it's funny because some people do say like that, like your appearance, like it's like vampire because like the way you do your pictures and the eyes and the eyebrows, like, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll take that.
Well, and there's a whole underground community because I just interviewed a guest that's into vampirism and that type of thing. So it's very much a real underground thing for sure. And I was enlightened by it because I didn't know much about it. So he was telling me about the whole movement basically. So that might be in your future.
Yeah, I've seen it and I've explored it a bit, but um I feel like we don't have that scene over here where I'm at.
Oh,
I have to move to a place like Salem or something.
right. Or it's
So yeah. But yeah, I'm aware of the community.
very cool. And I guess the last one of these based questions. Um, is there a movie that you think should never have been remade, horror wise?
Um, I don't know. I don't know how if there's like for example, I there are some of the Hellraisers that I did not like, especially the ones where Doug Bradley is not in them.
Right.
So, but here's the thing: there's always kind of like an idea behind the remake. I loved the new Suspiria remake. I thought it was beautiful, and I was really scared when they said that they were going to do a remake. With and I was like, Suspiria is like so perfect the way it is. Don't fuck up Suspiria for me because I already have like this image of it that I love, and I don't want to fuck that up. But I loved it, and it was beautifully done. And then, um, so I even if there are some movies that end up not being great or kind of just unnecessary, um, there's always some theory or some idea behind it, and we don't know what goes behind that. Do they really think that some of the shots that look shitty looked good? Was it like a technical complication that we don't know of? Were there other complications on set or in the post production that didn't that happened that made it be the way it is. So there must have been a reason for those things, and I don't like to judge, and I don't like to be like this is the shittiest movie ever, So it's like yeah, I don't like it, so I'm just not gonna watch it again.
Hmm.
So I don't think that there's something that should have not been done, so or redone. I guess I will always prefer. I'm just a sucker for the originals. I love the old. Not they're not old, but like the new uh feeling of when you watch something that was made in like in the 80s or in the 70s and you're like wow, like they did this with the technology that they without the technology that we have today. So it's like I'm here for it, and it's like I always like to think that there's some reason behind those those projects that end up not being just as successful.
That's a really interesting answer because I think it also kind of speaks to, I think most artists would view things that way because they know even with a remake, there's some sort of artistry going on. Someone had an idea of like maybe how they could have another angle on this project or how they could maybe add something that they think will work to it compared to the original. I know being a film reviewer, just like what you were saying, I don't feel good about slamming a film because I know this is another creative person that made, and especially on an independent level, put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it's not really my place to sit there and say this is complete shit. There's usually something good in it. I just have to find it. There's probably only been one or two exceptions, and in those cases, I was really honest with in one case, I don't think he minds me saying this. I contacted the director because he's the one that gave me the film to review. So I was like, hey, I'm just letting you know that I watched it and it just wasn't connecting with me at all. And I don't know if you want me to actually write the review because it's not going to be the most positive thing. I'll be constructive, of course, but so I'm going to actually give you that respect so you can let me know what would you like me to do with this. And he was like, no, I want the feedback. I want to know like what you didn't like about it so that I can improve. I don't expect everyone to be, yes, this is great and gushing about this is the best thing ever. So no, I want to hear the other side of it too. And as soon as he told me that, and I think because of the way I approached it, that he's somebody I ended up interviewing on the Alice tour. Because
Wow.
I, yeah, because he could have got defensive. He could have said, well, who are you? And I don't give a shit. It's like, no, he wanted to do it. So we had a nice dialogue about this. And then he said, no, Mark, you had some really good points. That's things I'm going to take into consideration for the next project. And then, I hear that you're on this tour. Maybe I can be a part of it. And I'm like, absolutely. Let's sit down and talk in front of a live stream audience about what you do. But yeah, there's so many people that don't. I think they're probably like just not creative or artistic people that will sit there and just slam something as a reviewer because they don't understand the other side of it.
Yeah, it's the same with music when you put an album out and you have these people saying like the guitars sound like shit and you're like, "Really? Is that what you got to say?" Like that doesn't add up anything to you or me. So what's even the point of slamming something? There's always something to be appreciated when even when something is not of your taste. It's impossible to please every single person on earth. So there's always some positive outtake to take of these things.
Yep, very, very well said. Well, Beatrice, it was awesome getting to do a uh, what is this? Over 2 hours? Yeah, 2 hours and 19-minute interview with you.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry. I speak a lot.
No, no, I loved it. I think the fans, loved it. And the ones that are going to watch it later are going to love it as well because we covered so many different things, and I got a huge update from you about what you're working on, what you're doing, what's coming up, and I absolutely meant that. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I would love to do a part two of this, before the year's done for sure.
I would love it. I had so much fun. And like I said, it was the first time that it felt right for me to do an interview in the middle of this craziness. So I would love to do a part two. I've been having so much fun.
Awesome. Well, we'll make that happen. I'll talk to you offline and we'll figure out the schedules and all that kind of fun stuff. But in the meantime, stay safe over there in Portugal. Keep doing what you do. You've got a huge supporter here in Seattle, Washington, in me. and
Thank you.
yeah, I hope to, well, I'll talk to you sooner than later then.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch and I hope everything is smoothly over there in Seattle and that you don't get caught up in the middle of like, all that bullshit keeps on getting worse and worse and I hope you keep safe and you keep doing all this that you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching out there, the folks that are in the chat. And again, people that are going to be watching this later. Beatriz Mariano, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Take care.
You too.